GLSDB hybrids join the fight on the side of Ukraine. Experts, journalists, and ordinary people often claim that NATO countries are giving Ukraine outdated weapons that have already been decommissioned to counter Russia. While this is true, it's worth noting that Ukraine is also receiving many modern weapons, such as the American M777 howitzers, M109 Paladin, Caesar and PZH-2000 self-propelled artillery systems, NASAMS and Irish-T SLM anti-aircraft missile systems, and XM-142 HIMARS and M270 MLRS multiple launch rocket systems. Recently, the White House announced the delivery to Ukraine of GLSDB small-diameter ground bombs, which have never been used anywhere before, and were tested for the first time only in 2015. While this may not seem like much news, these weapons could make a significant difference in the war, as the HIMARS that was delivered to Ukraine a few months ago helped stop the Russian offensive by destroying ammunition and fuel depots behind Russian army lines, headquarters with high-ranking Russian officers, bridges, and pontoon crossings. So the delivery of GLSDBs to the Ukrainian army is a very important event. The GLSDB, which is a small-diameter ground bomb, is a perfect example of how combining two completely different systems that should have been retired from service can lead to a weapon with unique characteristics. This idea became relevant for the U.S. Army in the early 2000s when they developed the GBU-39SDB small-diameter bomb for the internal compartments of stealth aircraft, and these aircraft cannot carry weapons on an external suspension, as this increases their visibility. Thus, it was decided to develop a small guided bomb that could be placed in the internal bomb bays of the F-22 Raptor. You can see for yourself by watching the video. The GBU-39SDB bomb has a compact long body that allows it to take up minimal space in the aircraft's internal bay, with a folded wing at the rear and a payload at the front. The bomb is only about 7.5 inches in diameter. The bomb has a strong steel casing which allows it to effectively engage armored and fortified targets, as it contains 36 pounds of high explosives. The bomb can be precisely guided using a combination of satellite and inertial guidance with a probable circular deviation of no more than 5 to 8 meters. And on newer models, this value is no more than 1 meter. The first bombs were developed in 2008. Today, the GBU-39SBD bombs are being replaced by the more effective GBU-53 Stormbreaker bombs, which use a combined guidance system that includes a millimeter wave-active radar, a semi-active laser, and passive infrared homing. This allows them to hit even moving targets. Nevertheless, more than half of the more than 45,000 GBU-39SBD bombs produced remain in the stockpile, having been used during the Afghanistan War. In the mid-1990s, in cooperation with the Swedish company Saab, Boeing developed a new use for the SBD. A rocket booster could be added to these gliding bombs, turning them into short-range cruise missiles that could be launched from the ground. The appropriate rocket engine was already available, and the U.S. Army had already disposed of its obsolete M26 HIMARS unguided missiles and had literally hundreds of thousands of fully operational solid fuel missiles in storage. These missiles could now be combined with bombs to create the new GLSDB system. This system simply combines an SDB bomb with a rocket motor from an M26 missile, requiring no significant component modifications. The GLSDB is launched from the M142 HIMARS or M270 MLRS multiple launch rocket system at a high angle to reach the maximum altitude at apogee. After that, the rocket engine is turned off, and the bomb opens its wing and begins to glide toward the target. But it does not just glide, it can change direction, descend, and ascend, which is why it's also called a jumping bomb. The 285-pound SBD bomb is slightly smaller than the former 345-pound M26 cluster warhead, so no significant component modifications were required. The GLSDB has a flight path change capability that can be useful in densely populated areas with limited launch directions. The ability to turn 180 degrees and engage a target 45 miles behind the launcher allows multiple targets to be hit in a single salvo in different directions, or targets on reverse mountainsides and behind high cover. The maximum range of the missile is 90 miles, which exceeds the range of the GMLRS missiles previously delivered to Ukraine. The GLSDB is more effective against buildings and fortified structures than the MLRS high explosive warhead, but is less localized. During testing, this bomb was able to penetrate a 5-foot-thick reinforced concrete aircraft shelter. However, the flight speed of the planned GLSDB is lower than the ballistic flight speed of the GMLRS, making it more vulnerable to air defense. This is offset, however, by the more complex planning trajectory, lower altitude, and ability to perform trajectory maneuvers, and the smaller size of the bomb itself, which has an effective dispersal area of only 0.17 square feet. The GLSDB can be considered a missile that occupies a middle ground between the GMLRS and the MGM-140 ATACMS, as it has a range of up to 185 miles, but costs only $40,000, thanks to the use of the decommissioned aircraft bombs and free rocket engines. In comparison, GMLRS costs between $100,000 and $160,000, and ATACMS cost up to $2.3 million. It's worth comparing the GLSDB to the Russian Grad, Smerch, and Tornado S multiple launch rocket systems used against Ukraine. The maximum range for Grad is 26 miles, Smerch 45 miles, and Tornado S 75 miles with high dispersion. With the GLSDB, the Ukrainian army can destroy targets up to 90 miles from the front line, such as field airfields from which Russian aircraft are conducting raids on Ukraine. This will force Russian aircraft to fly further and have less time to target targets. Given the availability of cheap ammunition, thousands of units could be supplied to Ukraine, which could significantly change the nature of the fighting. Previously, a few hundred MLRS were sufficient to stop the Russian offensive. However, now we're dealing with thousands of munitions that have a double range. Russia's Tor and Pantsir air defense systems, which are designed to defend against such munitions, may be successful in theory. However, the increase in the number of munitions could cause problems for these systems. In the past, it was necessary to defend against dozens of MLRS missiles, and half of them made it through. One example is the Antonov Bridge in Kherson, which was fired upon by dozens of Himalayan missiles. But if hundreds of missiles are launched every day, will the Russian air defense system be able to cope with this task? Will it not be overloaded? Time will tell. The only drawback of the GLSDB is that it's a young weapon. The United States has not yet managed to produce it in large quantities, and the Pentagon's only considering ordering it from Boeing. However, there's no need to produce a new weapon. You can simply combine GBU-39 SBD bombs and rocket engines for the M26 missile and get the GLSDB. It's a matter of time before the GLSDBs will have an impact on the war in Ukraine. This is all we have so far. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. It's a fitting reward for our work.